The crowd at Ocean World cheered as the sun glinted off the rippling blue surface of the massive pool. Children leaned forward in their seats, eyes wide with anticipation. In the middle of it all stood Jessica Radcliffe, the woman everyone came to see. With her short auburn hair tucked neatly under her cap, her wetsuit glistening, and a smile as bright as the day, she was more than just a trainer. She was a friend to the magnificent orcas she worked with. The ocean was in her blood. From the time she was a little girl growing up on the rugged coast of Maine, she had dreamed of swimming alongside the giants of the sea. And now, at 32, she lived that dream every day. But this day would be different. This day would be the last. Jessica's bond with the orcas wasn't just professional, it was deeply personal. Her favorite was Kairo, a 9,000-pound male with a towering dorsal fin and eyes that seemed to hold the wisdom of the ocean. Kairo wasn't easy. He had been rescued after a traumatic entanglement in fishing nets years before, and his trust in humans had been fragile at best. But Jessica had spent years earning that trust, feeding him by hand, swimming beside him, singing to him softly when no one else was around. To her, he wasn't an exhibit, he was family. Behind the show's glamour, though, there was an undercurrent of tension. Some of the staff worried about Kairo's unpredictable behavior. He had recently shown signs of agitation, slapping his tail against the water, refusing to follow certain commands. Jessica defended him fiercely, insisting it was only stress from the construction happening near the marine park. She hated the idea that Kairo's every move was treated as a liability. "They're not machines," she told her colleagues more than once. "They have feelings, they remember." That afternoon's show was meant to be special. A school group had come in, filling the stands with squeals of excitement. Jessica wanted to give them a memory they would treasure forever. She entered the pool with Kairo in a synchronized swim routine they had practiced for months. He was perfect, graceful, powerful, leaping into the air and crashing down in a sparkling curtain of spray. The children screamed in delight. Jessica beamed, giving Kairo his favorite fish as a reward. But then, something shifted. As she prepared for their final trick, a deep dive together, Kairo hesitated. Jessica noticed the stiffness in his posture, the way his tail flicked sharply beneath the water. She spoke to him in the calm, melodic tone he knew so well, but the tension in the air was thick. The dive began. She took a deep breath, plunging alongside him into the cool depths, feeling the rush of water past her face. Down there, everything was silent except for the distant hum of the filtration system. She reached out to touch his fin, signaling the ascent. Kairo didn't rise. Instead, his massive body blocked her path upward. Jessica tried to maneuver around him, but he moved with her, pressing her gently but firmly downward. Panic started to creep into her chest as her lungs began to ache. She knew Kairo wasn't trying to hurt her, at least not in the way a predator would. This was something else: confusion, frustration, a desperate plea for something she didn't understand. Above the water, the audience thought it was part of the act. The other trainers, stationed around the pool, began to sense something was wrong. Whistles pierced the air. Jessica pushed again, her arms burning, but Kairo didn't move. She saw his great dark eye looking at her, searching, holding her in place as if trying to tell her something that words could never carry. Her vision began to blur. She reached for the surface one last time. When the rescue team finally pulled her from the water, the stands had gone silent. CPR was performed, but Jessica never regained consciousness. The news spread quickly. An orca trainer, beloved by thousands, gone in an instant. But those who knew her felt the loss even deeper. For them, it wasn't just a tragedy. It was a fracture in something beautiful. In the days that followed, the park faced relentless scrutiny. Protesters gathered outside demanding the release of the orcas. Some blamed Kairo, calling for his removal. Others blamed the park for keeping wild animals in captivity at all. Jessica's family, however, refused to let the story end in bitterness. Her younger sister, Emily, stood before the cameras and spoke through tears. Jessica loved those animals more than life itself. "If you take anything from this, let it be that we must respect them, for who they are, not for what we want them to be." Kairo was never put down. He was eventually moved to a protected sea sanctuary, where he could swim in open waters once more. And sometimes, when the volunteers there swam near him, they said he would pause, look at them for a long moment, and then slowly turn away, disappearing into the deep. Jessica's story became a rallying cry for marine conservation. Schools told her story not just as a warning, but as a testament to courage, empathy, and the complicated bond between humans and the wild. She had lived and died doing what she loved, and though her loss left a void that could never truly be filled, her message echoed on the ocean is not ours to control. It is ours to protect. The morning sky over Ocean World was painted in soft pink and gold, the kind of sunrise Jessica Radcliffe never took for granted. She stood at the edge of the pool before anyone else arrived, hands wrapped around a steaming mug of coffee, watching the first light dance across the water. This was her quiet ritual before the chaos of the day began. Out here, with only the sound of water lapping against the sides and the occasional gull overhead, she could breathe. Her colleagues often joked that she spoke to the orcas more than to people, and maybe that was true. Jessica had always been different, drawn to the ocean from the moment she could walk. Her father, a fisherman, used to take her out on his boat in the early mornings, letting her dangle her hands into the icy Atlantic water. At 8 years old, she'd seen her first orca in the wild, a fleeting black and white shadow cutting through the waves. From then on, she knew exactly what she wanted to do with her life. Years later, that dream came true. She started as a junior assistant at Ocean World, cleaning tanks, preparing buckets of fish, and learning the strict safety rules. But it wasn't long before her natural gift with animals became undeniable. She didn't just follow the training manual. She seemed to intuitively understand their moods and quirks. When others struggled with Kairo, the largest and most unpredictable orca in the park, Jessica had a way of calming him with just her voice. Still, the job wasn't without challenges. The park was under constant pressure to deliver bigger, flashier shows for visitors. Management wanted perfectly timed stunts, tight choreography, and no room for off days. Jessica pushed back when she felt the animals were being asked for too much. She argued for more rest periods, better enrichment, and less invasive crowd interaction. This sometimes put her at odds with supervisors, but she didn't care. Her loyalty was to the animals, not the ticket sales. Her bond with Kairo was the most extraordinary part of her career. He was a survivor, rescued from near death after getting caught in a fishing net at just 3 years old. Years in captivity had made him wary of humans, but Jessica's patience had chipped away at that wall. She spent countless hours beside the pool, tossing him his favorite salmon, humming softly, and sometimes just sitting in silence until he came to her on his own. The first time he let her rest a hand on his massive head, she cried. But there were warning signs in the months before the tragedy. Kairo had begun acting differently, circling the pool restlessly at night, refusing certain cues, and even once nudging Jessica hard enough to knock her off balance. Other trainers urged caution. Some feared he might snap under the pressures of captivity. Jessica believed he was simply frustrated and needed more stimulation. "He's telling us something," she said in a staff meeting. "We'll just have to listen." The day of the incident began like any other, but Jessica had an unusual heaviness in her chest she couldn't explain. Maybe it was the humid air, maybe just exhaustion from the relentless summer schedule. Still, she was determined to make the afternoon performance memorable for the visiting school group. The show started perfectly. Kairo soared through the air, his sleek body glistening under the sun, each leap sending shimmering waves toward the cheering crowd. Jessica swam alongside him, her movements fluid and graceful, as though they were one being moving through the water. The children clapped wildly, parents snapped pictures, and for a moment, the world was nothing but joy. Then came the final routine, the deep synchronized dive. They had done it dozens of times before. Jessica took a breath and slipped beneath the surface with Kairo. Descending into the cool, bluish haze, she reached out to touch his fin, giving the signal to rise. But instead of ascending, he shifted, cutting off her path to the surface. At first, she thought it was playfulness. She tried to move around him, but he mirrored her every move, keeping her from breaking free. She tapped his side, another signal to move, but he didn't budge. Her lungs began to burn, her heartbeat pounding in her ears. She saw his massive eye lock onto hers, as if trying to communicate something urgent, something she couldn't understand in the fleeting seconds she had left. The trainers on the deck blew whistles and banged on the side of the pool. Kairo finally released her, but precious time had already slipped away. By the time Jessica was pulled from the water, limp and unresponsive, the audience had fallen silent. Emergency crews rushed in, performing CPR. The smell of chlorine mixed with the metallic scent of fear. After endless, agonizing minutes, the lead medic shook his head. The park closed the rest of the day. News outlets swarmed the gates. Some headlines painted Kairo as a dangerous killer. Others blamed Ocean World's policies. Jessica's family, though shattered, refused to let her death turn into a spectacle. Her sister Emily gave a trembling statement. Jessica loved Kairo. She never blamed him for being what he was, wild, powerful, intelligent creature who didn't belong in a tank. Within months, Kairo was relocated to a protected sea sanctuary where he could swim freely. Visitors often reported seeing him linger near the boundary nets, gazing out toward the open ocean. Jessica's story became a call for change in how humans treat marine life. Schools taught about her compassion. Conservation groups dedicated campaigns in her honor. And though she was gone, the ripples of her life kept moving outward, touching strangers she would never meet. She had once told a young trainee, "The ocean doesn't need us to master it. It needs us to respect it." That was the legacy she left behind, one that would never sink beneath the waves.